Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudire
Tato Jayamudire
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Okay, so Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya.
Om Ajnana Timirandasya
Maybe we can recite together. So.
Jnana
Jana Shalataya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakalamam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitansya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Rama Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Okay, which verse we are to read?
219.
2:19. Okay, so the second canto, second chapter. This chapter is entitled "The Lord in the Heart." And we'll read from 19 to 20. Okay. So we'll recite the Sanskrit verse. Itham munistu paramed vivastito
Itha Munistapuramed Vastito
Vijnana drigvirya surantitashaya
Vijnana Virya Suranditasya
Swaparshninapidya kudam tato nilam
Swaparshina Gudam Tato Nilam
Sthaneshu Satsunamaye jita klavaha.
Sthaneshu Satsunamaye Jita Klamaha.
So read the word for word. Itham, thus, by Brahman realization. Muni, the philosopher. Tu, but. Uparamet, should retire. Vyavastitaha, well situated. Vijnanadrik, by scientific knowledge. Virya, strength. Surandita, well regulated. Ashaya, aim of life. Swaparshnina, with the heel of one's foot. Apidya, by blocking. Gudam, the air hole. Tataha, thereafter. Anilam, life air. Sthaneshu, in the places. Shatsu, six primary. Unamayet, must be lifted. Jita klavaha, by extinguishing material desires. The translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Avaichirnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: by the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization. and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot, and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places. So this is how we are supposed to live the body. We have to block the hole where stool is evacuated with the heel of the foot. Then we have to raise the life air through the different chakras upwards, and then giving up all material desires, one should leave the body. Okay, so let's read Prabhupada's purport. Which is not possible in this age. Nobody can do like that. This is like more like for Ashtanga yogi, or those who practice yoga system. So that is a way to leave the body when they like. The yogis can leave the body when they like. There is the life air to the upper part of the head, and from there they leave the body. That may have been possible in previous ages, but in this hardly anybody can do it. Maybe there are a few. But the important point here is that one should be free from all material desires. There are many duratmas, Prabhupada's purport, there are many duratmas who claim to have realized themselves as Brahman and yet are unable to conquer material desires. So Prabhupada is saying that there are many people who say that they are self-realized, but they are not able to control their senses and their desires. But they make a show that they are very great devotees. So they are called duratmas because they are cheating. They are cheating the public. They are called sahajiyas also. Sahajiyas are who take something very cheaply. Sahaj means cheap. There are many people who say that they are very self-realized, but Prabhupada is saying they have not conquered their material desires. So we should not pose ourselves as something which we are not. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, a sincere sweeper in the street is better than a charlatan meditator. Like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said like that. A sincere sweeper in the street is better than a charlatan meditator. Means one who is making a show of spiritual advancement to gain some popularity, some followers, like that. So, and some money, and so
Krishna says one who restrains his sense of action, but his
but
mind
mind
dwells
dwells
on sense of
is called a mithyachari. Also, he says like that. In the Bhagavad Gita, 1854, it is clearly explained that an absolutely self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. So 1854 is, I think, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kamshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labate param. So those who are very self-realized on the Brahman platform, they are not lamenting and they are not hankering. Na sochati na kamshati. So because they know that everything here is temporary. I came with nothing, I'm going with nothing. So they are not attached. And they see everybody equally. Spiritual platform. In such a state, Krishna says, they begin their devotional service to me. So, what are material desires? Prabhupada is defining that. Material desires are based on the false ego of the living being and are exhibited by his childish and useless activities to conquer the laws of material nature and by his desire to lord it over the resources of 5 elements. So material desires are based on the false identification with the body, thinking that I am this body. The false sense of identity is false ego. And under that conception, one is trying to become the Lord and Master. Although one is not the Lord and Master, he's trying to control and he's trying to become the Lord and Master. Prabhupada says it's a childish activity to conquer the laws of material nature, because nobody can conquer the laws of material nature. Despite so many scientific research, and we have doctors here, there is no cure for many diseases, and there are always side effects. Even if you take some medicine, there are 10 other side effects of the medicine. So I don't know if we can say that with the scientific invention we have prolonged life or not. We can't say really. Some people say previously they were living longer. Of course, we know from scriptures in Dwapar Yuga they used to live 1,000 years. In Treta Yuga they used to live 10,000 years. In Satya Yuga they used to live. So in Kali Yuga we live only 100 years at the most. So we are trying to dominate material nature, trying to control, but material nature always has something to outwit us. And despite all the scientific advancement, the problems of life are still the same. Death, old age, disease. If you go to the hospital, all the hospitals are full of patients. Like this Ohio State University, big hospital here right across. Sometimes they say they have no bed. You have to go somewhere else. That means so many people are in the hospital, and many people die in the hospital. So there is no solution to these problems, despite all this advancement. In fact, now there is a lot of other kind of problems, right? We have conquered tuberculosis and different. We have found COVID vaccine and so many things. But now there are mental problems. Mental health problems are very much growing. Stress and everything. So with such a mentality, one is led to believe. Such a mentality means that I can conquer the laws of material nature. One is led to believe in the strength of material science with its discovery of atomic energy and space travel by mechanical vehicles. So now we have International Space Station, and people have sent some satellite to Mars, and they have landed on the moon, they are saying like that. So now India recently, Chandrayaan, right? Chandrayaan, that landed on the moon, and it was a big news. So everybody is like trying to dominate now space, Russia and China are wanting to establish a nuclear space station on the moon or somewhere, they are thinking. So everybody is thinking that, we have to do more and more, like explore more of this material world. And there is space travel by mechanical vehicles. And by such tiny advancements in material science, the false egoist tries to challenge even the strength of the Supreme Lord, who can finish all men's tiny endeavors in less than a second. So we are doing so much exploration and scientific research and advancement, but all that can be finished. Actually, sometimes the scientific research is also dangerous, right? Because now they have invented these nuclear missiles and so many things. So all laser-guided missiles and so many things which can cause havoc. So it has become very dangerous also now. Now there is so much pollution and everything. So our endeavors can finish in less than a second. If the Lord wills something, so many people can, a nuclear bomb drops and so many people die. So hurricane or so many things. So the Lord allows us to play for some time because we have desire to lord it over, just like a cat plays with a mouse before it finally swallows the mouse. So sometimes we are playing here and we are thinking, yes, I am doing very, as Prabhupada says, we are thinking that we are achieving some wonderful thing and we are, making progress. Now there is no need of God, and so like that Prabhupada is saying. The well-situated self or Brahman realized soul perfectly understands that the Supreme Brahman or the personality of Godhead is the all-powerful Vasudeva, and that he, the self-realized living being, is part and parcel of Supreme Godhead, or is a part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him in all respects, in the transcendental relation of the served and the servitor. So those who are realized, they know that there is God from whom everything has come, when we are part of God, and they want to serve God, and by serving the whole, then the part is also satisfied. And we have the example of the tree. Yatha taror mula nishe chanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujopashaka pranopaharacha ithendriyanam tatheva sarvarnam achyutaichya. So because we are not serving the whole, that's why we are not healthy. A leaf is healthy as it is, as long as it is connected to the tree and serving the tree. But when the leaf disconnects from the tree, then it becomes dry. So similarly, when our consciousness is not connected to Krishna, then despite everything, then we are like a fish out of water, and we experience miserable situation. Sometimes people say, no, I am happy. I am not experiencing. But who can avoid death, old age, disease? Nobody can avoid. Now you may say, well, even devotees have to die. Devotees are also dying. They are also going through death. They are also going through old age. They are also going through disease like everybody else. So what is the difference between devotees and those who don't believe in God or anything like that? It's the same. So the example is given that a cat is holding kitten in its mouth and a cat is holding mouse in its mouth. It's the same cat that is holding two different, but there is a difference. For the devotee, he's going back to the spiritual world or going to a better destination. So and for the non-devotee, there is, depending on his karma and things like that, Yamadutas may come or whatever, like that. So it is the same situation, but now we have to accept that there is a soul, right? If we don't accept there is soul, there is God and all these things, then nothing makes sense. So there are many things we can't see with our eyes. So we tend to not believe in those things because we can't see them. We don't have evidence like that. But the Shastra is saying, so we have to accept the word of Scripture. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him in all respects in the transcendental relationship of the served and the servitor. Such a self-realized soul ceases to exhibit his useless activities, attempting to lord it over material nature. So instead of trying to be independent of the Supreme Lord, he cooperates with the Supreme Lord. Being scientifically well informed, he fully engages himself in the faithful devotion to the Lord. The expert yogi who has thoroughly practiced the control of life air by the prescribed method of yoga system is advised to quit at the body as follows. He should plug up the evacuating hole with the heel of the foot and then progressively move the life air on and on to 6 places: the navel, abdomen, heart, chest, palate, eyebrows, and cerebral pit. Controlling the life air by the prescribed yogic process is mechanical and practice is more or less a physical endeavor for spiritual perfection. In olden days, such practice was very common for the transcendentalists. For the mode of life and character in those days were favorable. But in modern days, when the influence of Kali, age, is so disturbing, practically everyone is untrained in this art of bodily exercise. Concentration of mind is more easily attained in these days by chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. So, it is easier to chant Hare Krishna and serve Krishna in devotional service than to practice this difficult. Even Arjuna said, right? It's very difficult, this yoga practice. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavatridam tasyaham nigraham manya vayuriva sadushkaram. This yoga practice that you have told me, like the Ashtanga yoga practice, he said it's very difficult because my mind is restless, stubborn, obstinate, and to control it is more difficult than the wind, controlling the wind. So Krishna says, yes, asanshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam abhyasena tu panteya vairagena chakriyate. Yes, undoubtedly it is very difficult to control the mind, but it can be done by suitable practice and detachment. So And that suitable practice is to chant Hare Krishna in this age. To chant Hare Krishna and to read the scriptures, the 5 processes of devotional service which are very potent. Deity, devotee, Nam, Dham, Bhagavatam. Worshipping the deity, serving the Bhagavatam, reading the Bhagavatam, deity, devotee, association with devotees, chanting the holy name, deity, devotee, Nam, Dham, living in a holy place, and Bhagavatam. So, the mind is very difficult to control, but it can be controlled by chanting Hare Krishna. Prabhupada says the easiest way to control the mind is to chant Hare Krishna in all humility. So, only with Krishna's help we can control the mind. And when you give it a higher taste, the mind needs a higher taste. So when we get a higher taste in bhakti, then the mind becomes attached to the Lord. Krishna says in the 6th chapter that just hear from me how you can become attached to me and practice this yoga in full consciousness of me. So the thing is to make mind attached to the Lord. If you don't make mind attached to the Lord, it will be attached to so many other things. And according to our attachment, we will continue to transmigrate in this world. Like Bharat Maharaj, right? He became attached to a deer, so he got the body of a deer. Prabhupada says like that, if a husband is very attached to his wife, in next life he becomes a female. And the female is attached to the man, then in next life he becomes a man. So like that, our attachments, mind takes us in different bodies based on our attachments. That's how it is described. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajanti ante kalevaram tam tam eveti kontiya sadatat bhava valida. So the purpose of yoga practice is to make the mind attached to Krishna. What does Krishna say? Tatshinu. Maya sapta mana partha yogam yunjum madashraya asanshayam samagramam yatha jnashashi tatshinu. And mind becomes attached based on what we do every day, right? If I drink every day, then mind will become attached to drinking, or I'll become attached to drinking. Means my mind is attached to drinking. So whatever habits we cultivate, according to that, mind becomes attached. If we do nice japa every day and we chant Hare Krishna, and then you become attached to you look forward to doing nice japa every morning. It's very nice. So whatever you do, that's what your mind becomes attached to. Like if you watch cricket, then we will become attached to cricket, right? No child when he's born is not attached to any game, but by playing the game and by doing that activity and then watching it and hearing about it, and then you become attached to cricket. So in the same way, we can become attached to Krishna by daily hearing about him, by speaking about him, by thinking about him. And it is natural because love for Krishna is there in our heart. Love for Lord is there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karvayodaya. Prabhupada says this is not an artificial imposition on the mind. It is the original nature of the living entity to have a loving relationship with God. So when we come in contact with the devotees of the Lord who have love for God, and we hear about Krishna and his wonderful activities, we are attached to somebody in this world because they are very beautiful, they are very wealthy, they are very knowledgeable, they are very famous.
Also, we think they love us.
They love us. That's why we become. And they are somebody who's really very renounced also. They are also very attractive, right? Oh, he had so much wealth, but he gave up. Such people become very attractive. So Krishna has all the attributes. And he also is very kind-hearted. Not only he is attractive, but his heart is also very kind. Like Shukdev Goswami, when he was in the forest, he heard 2 verses. He heard one verse about Krishna's beauty. Bharapidam natvara karnayo karnikaram bipradvasha tisham vaijanti chamalam venunadhara sukya. Yeah, how Krishna is decorated with the peacock feather. He has a karnika flower on his ears, and his form is so enchanting. He has lotus petal like eyes. Varapidam Natavara is the best of the dancers. Natavara. So by hearing, it's very attractive too. But then the person is having all the abilities and all the, but he should also be kind-hearted. So then he heard the verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam. That how Putana came to kill him. But he gave her liberation of a mother in the spiritual world. So somebody was very kind-hearted. Sometimes people have very good character, talents and things like that. They're very beautiful. But if their heart is not kind, then you have a hard time relating with them. They're arrogant or something like that. But Krishna is very kind-hearted. So everybody is looking for Krishna. And we are all looking for the perfect person whom we can love, who will reciprocate our love also perfectly. So that person is Krishna. So we are all looking for Krishna, as George Harrison said in Krishna book. Everybody is looking for Krishna. So Krishna is not is easy to find through the association of devotees. In the Brahma Samhita it is said, Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. From the Vedas, although Krishna is to be known, Vedesha sarver aham eva vedyo. Vedas are vast. But ultimately from Vedas, Krishna is to be known. But Krishna is very difficult to find through the Vedas because there are so many Vedas and so many different. But if you approach his devotee or you become a devotee, then Krishna is easy to understand. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyashashmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram bhaktya svananya shakya aham eva vido arjuna Gyatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. Krishna is saying all the time, with bhakti only, with love only, I will reveal myself. Like in this world also, we don't reveal anybody our inner desires to anybody. Only those who are close to us, those who love us, then we tell them about ourselves and we tell. So Krishna also reveals himself to those who are interested in him. Those who are not interested in him, then Krishna also withholds. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogo maya samarita mudoham na vijanati loko mama avya. But it is easy. Krishna wants to be our friend, but sometimes we are not eager to have his friendship. So he wants to be our friend. Actually, he is the friend of every living entity. And he is very concerned about, he is a true friend. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Right, we say. So we are in need in this material world, but by the influence of Maya, the illusion, we think I'm all right. But we are in the cycle of birth and death. We are going through so many different species of life. Maya has a potency called Avaranatmika Shakti. Hare Krishna. Avaran means it covers our real identity. And one effect of Maya is that we feel happy in whichever situation of life we come, we feel happy, we feel satisfied. Even as a pig, eating stool is also satisfied. So that is the effect of this illusory energy, and we cannot understand the bigger picture. So that is why the great souls like Srila Prabhupada, they come and they tell us about our real situation in this world, which we cannot understand on our own, because we are in illusion. So to come out of this illusion, we have to chant Hare Krishna. Ene che aushadhi maya nashi boru lagi Hari nama maha mantra lauduni. Like if somebody has a loss of memory, then to bring him back to his memory, like sometimes people get accidents and things, they lose memory. Then they try to, how do they bring them? I mean, I saw in the movie. They will try to bring people who are familiar to them, some places they will take them. So we have lost our memory of being in the spiritual world with Krishna, in the spiritual world. We have lost our memory. But when we again come in contact with this, then slowly that memory, Prithu Maharaj says, right? That which we have forgotten, that memory is again revived. So we will then slowly come to understand who we are in the spiritual world and what is our identity in the spiritual world by coming in contact with Krishna and also different things. And we will feel great relief from this material existence when we come in contact with Krishna. So material desires are actually not our friends. They are actually giving us a body one after another. And this body gives us enjoyment, but it is a source of big trouble also. Some enjoyment you can derive from the body, but this body can also give a lot of trouble. Like you get cancer, then you go to chemotherapy and radiation and all these things, right? Then so much trouble. It gives some little enjoyment here and there, but it is also capable of giving us so much trouble. So there are different levels of enjoyment. There is enjoyment on the bodily platform, there is enjoyment on the mental platform, and there is enjoyment on the spiritual platform, right? So bodily platform means enjoyment through the body means bringing the senses in contact with the sense objects. Uniting the senses with the sense objects. There is some enjoyment that results from it. But that enjoyment, as Krishna says, yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkha yonayavate. It also gives us some trouble afterwards. If you too much enjoy your body, right? If I eat too much sweets, then it will cause some problem in my body. Or if we enjoy too much anything, then it will wear out our body because it is not designed for unlimited enjoyment. And the soul wants unlimited enjoyment, but the capacity of the body to give enjoyment is limited. So we are trying to extract as much enjoyment as possible from the body. But after some time, it doesn't satisfy the heart, the soul. Then the other enjoyment is on the mental platform. So the scientists, when they discover something, like I was talking yesterday about Archimedes, right? Archimedes was given a crown to find out whether this crown is pure gold or not. So he was, without actually dismantling the crown or doing anything, so he was thinking how to do this, and he was taking a bath. I don't know if this story is true or not. He was taking a bath and suddenly something clicked. The Archimedes principle. Anybody remember the Archimedes principle from physics? So
It should float, right? Float on water.
yeah, whatever it is. The amount of water displaced is equal to, yeah. So then he was in ecstasy and he ran out in the street naked.
Yeah.
Because he was in so much ecstasy. That's how the story is said. I don't know if it's true or not. He ran out so he was in so much ecstasy, he found some, So many times, scientists are doing some research and they come across, they discover something, the I found out. And it gives so much joy. Like the COVID vaccine, maybe when they found it must have given them so much joy, COVID vaccine. Or the bulb, the Thomas Edison was trying different filaments for the bulb, and finally he came across the right thing that will be used. It must be in so much joy. So that kind of, mental, on the mental platform also. Of course, bodily enjoyment is also related to the mind, because your mind is perceiving that is enjoyment. Like somebody is eating meat and he's feeling enjoyable. Why? Because his mind is thinking that this eating meat is very nice. But for somebody else, that same eating of meat is not enjoyable because his mind is not tuned in that way. So happiness and distress is also perceived by the mind. The mind is giving happiness and distress. According to the modes of nature we are in, we will perceive a situation as enjoyable or we will perceive a situation as not enjoyable. So the effect of Maya is that we feel happy based on the modes of nature we are situated in. We feel happy in a situation, whatever we are in, and we don't want to get out of that situation. So Prabhupada is saying here, these material desires actually give us one body after another in this material world and so many different situations. Sometimes we are Indra, sometimes we are an ant or an earthworm, sometimes we again go up, then again go down. Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Beej. So this human form of life is meant to stop this rotation in the cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada would say that it's a very, not a very nice situation that we take one body, then give it up. Because we become attached to so many things in this body, right? Our family and our assets and everything. And then death comes and then you have to suddenly go. And then again new situation comes. And in that situation again you have to start, building. So we are building these sand castles every life, and they are destroyed by time or when we quit this body. The example is given of a boy who is working very hard on the beach and he's building all the sand castles. And the night comes and the father says, now we have to go home. And the next day he comes and the tide has washed away all his sand castles that he built. So it's like that. Mrityu sarva haras chaham, Krishna says, I'll take away everything at the time of death. Like something, when I lose my wallet, right, feel very disturbed. Where is my wallet? Who took my wallet? If something happens to your car, then you're disturbed. It's something. So when some things are taken away from you, then you feel very disturbed. But if all the things are taken away at one time, that is the situation of death. Whatever we are attached to, everything is taken away simultaneously. And at that time, we feel very sad because of all our attachment. So that's why Varnashram was designed in such a way that you die before dying. There's a book by Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, Die Before Dying. He said like that. That means you are ready to go, because it's going to be taken away now that you are growing old. It's going to be taken away. So you die before dying means you are ready to give up. When the time comes, I'm ready to go. Otherwise, we have to lament, Prahlad Maharaj says that he's telling his father, Tat sadhu manye suravarya dehina sada samudvigna dhyam asakraha hitvatmapatam grihamanda kupam vanam gato yadhari mashrayet. He says, my dear father, you have fallen into this materialistic household life, which is like a dark well, blind well, in which there is no happiness. So I think now you should give up this, because material life is full of anxiety. And you should give up this life and go to Vrindavan, the forest of Vrindavan, and take shelter of Hari. And because you are always attached to those things, asad graha, you are trying to hold on to things that you cannot hold on to. And that, because of that, you are always in anxiety. So we are in anxiety because so many things can go wrong and so many things will be taken away. So Prabhupada quotes this verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochati Na Kamshati. So when we stop this hankering and lamentation, then we can be very prasannatma, we can be very joyful. So this is another way of being joyful. This is spiritual way of being joyful. There is a material way of being joyful and there is a spiritual way of being joyful. But this way of being joyful is very nice, because in that situation you can begin bhakti to the Lord. So, or by bhakti we come to that platform of Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Like we were reading this, we are saying all these verses about Bhagavatam. So when we actually hear the Bhagavatam every day, then all the abhadrani, all the unwanted things in our heart, they are destroyed. And then what happens after that? Tadarajastamo bhava kama lobha dayasya chete eterana vidyam stitam satve prasiddhi. One comes to the mode of goodness, and evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata. He becomes very joyful in contact with Bhagavad Bhakti and like that. So this is another way of being joyful, is to be joyful in devotional service to Krishna. So, but that happiness is the natural happiness of the soul. And it doesn't depend on how much money you have, how you look, whether you are ugly or you're good looking, or how much money you have, and or how many friends you have and anything. You can be joyful in serving Krishna. irrespective of that. So, we'll go to the next verse, but if anybody has any comment. Any comments?
Yeah, our material desires are based on the false ego. We think that I am male or I am female, I am this or that. Based on that, we have desires. But Prabhupada says in a second, anything can be taken away. It can all be destroyed. We think I have this house, I have this wealth, I have these family members to take care of me. Any moment, things can be taken away from you, materially. But if you have full shraddha towards Krishna, then Krishna will be there to protect you. So that's why you should think of the one who is always there with you, who will always be there with you at every moment. So
I was also thinking Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala. There is a song by Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bhajahu Haripada Niti. This life is tottering like a drop of water on the lotus petal, and a little breeze or something, movement can just take away the drop from the lotus petals. So life is very fragile. UPS has many fragile things they label as fragile. So some freak accidents happen, somebody falls down the stairs, he hits his head and then he's in coma or something like that. Some freak accidents, and some even on the road, little bit you went into the wrong lane or something and then boom, crash, and then you're done. So one of
Prahlad Maharaj also says, right, my father had all this, and when he was angry and he laughed, the demigods would be
trembling in fear.
Yeah, but yet my father, who was so powerful, has now been vanquished by you within a moment.
Yeah, when Nrsimhadev told Hiranyakashipu, told Prahlad, ask for a boon. I can give you anything. He says, I have seen it all. My father had everything. He was the controller, but it all finished in a second. So why should I ask for these things? Again, because it is Shana Bhangur. Dehi Nam Shana Bhangura. So it can be finished. Of course, we need comforts and we need some situation. Hare Krishna. We need some situation to be comfortable, but that situation can be dismantled. Like the rug can be pulled from under our feet. They say in English, rug can be pulled from. We are standing on the rug and suddenly somebody comes and it unsettles us. So material life is like that.
Also, Hiranyakashipu had everything, still he was not satisfied because his son was not following. So we will never be materially satisfied. There will always be greed to become more materially accomplished. Only way to get satisfaction is if you do service to Krishna unconditionally without asking anything in return. Otherwise, if you want dhanam, janam, sundaram followers, will always be in anxiety.
So if you want, Bhagavatam says you worship Krishna, akama sarva kamova, akama sarva kamova, but that you have all material desires, you worship Krishna. But by worshipping Krishna and getting a higher taste, then all the lower tastes will go away. So, Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dhinam, rasovarja prasubhyasya param Krishna. Okay, so the next verse is more like, I think it is just about the yogi. I'll just read the translation. The meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence. There are 6 circles of movement. Chakras, 6 chakras of life air, and the intelligent bhakti yogi should search out these places with intelligence and a meditative mood. It's interesting, Prabhupada says intelligent bhakti yogi. Among these mentioned above is the Svadhisthana chakra, or the powerhouse of life air. And above this, just below the abdomen and navel, is the Manipuraka chakra. When the upper space is further searched out in the heart, one reaches the Anahata chakra. And further up, when the life air is placed at the root of the palate, one reaches the Vishuddhi chakra. Okay. nothing much I can say about this. Then the next verse. Thereafter, the Bhakti Yogi should push the life air between the eyebrows. So he has brought it from the lower parts to the upper part. And then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air, he should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme. Okay, so I'll read the purport. The process of giving up all material connections and returning home back to Godhead, the Supreme is recommended herein. So in the Varnashram system, it's like that. At the end, you take sannyas. Means you give up all material connections, everything, and you go back to the Supreme. All material desires. Because if you have material desires, then we'll come back here in this material world, right? In another body. The condition is that one should be completely free from desire for material enjoyment. But that is not possible. How can we become free from desire for material enjoyment? Because desire for enjoyment, we can become free from, because we are anandamayo bhyasat. We are by nature, we are pleasure seeking. So we can't become free from enjoyment, because by nature our thing is full of pleasure. Our nature is to seek pleasure, or we are full of pleasure. So we can only become free from desire for material enjoyment when we get spiritual enjoyment. Otherwise, in absence of spiritual enjoyment, we'll seek material enjoyment. And how do we get spiritual enjoyment? By nectar of instruction, verse number 7. Syat Krishna Nama Charita Adisitapya Vidya Pitopatapta Rasanasya Narojina. By doing devotional services every day with great care and attention, especially chanting and like that, then our taste will awaken. So then you will get a higher taste. Swadvi Kramad. He says swad. Swad means taste. So that taste will awaken. And when that taste, there will be a time when we are not experiencing spiritual enjoyment, and naturally everybody is attached to material enjoyment in this world. So it becomes we are told to restrict material enjoyment, but we are not getting spiritual enjoyment. So it becomes very difficult at that time, right? If you're not getting spiritual enjoyment and you're told to give up material enjoyment and you're not getting spiritual enjoyment, then you think, where is my enjoyment going to come from? I cannot do this material enjoyment like, whatever, movies and this and that, sort of drinking and all that. And I'm not getting spiritual enjoyment. So my life is like in a limbo. I feel very dry and very sad because there is no enjoyment in life. But we have to be patient. Like those who are doctors, they have to be patient to get their degree. They have to work hard, and one day they will get that degree. So in the same way, we should not give up Krishna consciousness because it is not giving me enjoyment. I'm not feeling good about chanting, so I just give it up. I'm not feeling good about serving Krishna, so I just give it up. No, for material life also we do so much endeavor, right? Even though we don't get immediate results, we persist. So we have to persist in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna says that happiness which is like nectar in the beginning but becomes poison at the end is in the mode of passion. Vishayendri Sangyogat Yat Tadagre Amritopamam Pariname Vishamiva Tat Sukham Rajasam Smritam. So everything that is enjoyable immediately is not ultimately good for us. But it becomes poison at the end. And on the other hand, Agre Vishamiva Pariname Amritopamam Tat Sukham Satvika Proktam, like that. Atma Prasada. So one which awakens you to self-realization. So in the beginning, this chanting and all these things, devotional service is not very enjoyable. But because we are conditioned, generally it's like that. But when we persist and we keep doing it, then it becomes enjoyable at the end. So, and that happiness stays with us, and it increases. Whereas material enjoyment is very nice in the beginning, but it decreases with time, and then has so many side effects and like that. So all the sages, they aspire for spiritual enjoyment. The yogi definition is right. They want unlimited pleasure. Iti ram upadenashu param brahma vidiyate. They don't settle for this enjoyment. This enjoyment which is mixed with so much struggle and misery. This kind of enjoyment is not. We want unadulterated enjoyment. We don't want adulterated enjoyment. We don't want adulterated milk. Milk which is mixed with a lot of water and things like that. So our desire is unadulterated enjoyment. And that unadulterated enjoyment we can only get when we are in devotional service, in service to Krishna. Otherwise we have to settle for adulterated enjoyment. And then we think this is how it is. This is natural. But if it is natural, why we try to avoid death? If death is natural, sometimes people say, death is natural, old age is natural, but nobody likes it. So if it is natural, natural means you should like it. But it's not natural for the soul. That's why the soul is struggling. And in this material world, everybody is struggling. Manashashtani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. Krishna says, everybody in this material world is struggling with their senses and their mind. And why this struggle has come about? Because we have turned away from God. Krishna bhulya jiva bhogavancha kare, pashatare mayatare chakra. So our struggle will continue. It will continue in this material existence until we turn back to Krishna. So there are different grades of material enjoyment in respect to duration of life and sensual gratification. The highest plane of sensual enjoyment for the longest period of life is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9:20. So when you go to heavenly planets, I think it's talking about heavenly planets, there the duration of life is very great and you enjoy for a long period of time, right? In Bhagavad Gita 9:20, Krishna is saying,
those who study the Vedas
and drink the so much juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly, purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra where they enjoy godly delights. So in heaven there is so much enjoyment that our enjoyment here is nothing. They have Nandan Kanan gardens. They are very beautiful people. They have Somras. It's not like our wine here. It is beautiful, angelic people. It is described. And very attractive, very beautiful. And there is a lot of sense gratification. And there is no disease practically. There is no old age. But you drop dead in the party. Because your punya runs out and then you finish. You just die. So Prabhupada is saying that highest plane of sensual enjoyment for the longest period of life is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So in this material world, Krishna has created such places where you can go and you can have long duration of enjoyment. Our enjoyment is nothing here. We have to struggle 50, 60 years to get 20 years of retirement. The demigods are laughing at us. Oh, what these human beings, what are they trying to do? Instead, they should come to our abode. And we are enjoying so much like that here.
But they also pray to be born.
But they also pray that let us be born, because they also know that it will come to an end. Although they know, but the desire for enjoyment and the situation is so nice in the heavenly planets. The situation is so nice that there is no desire for self-realization. Right? There's no. When situation is very nice, nobody turns to God. So they are in great enjoyment spirit. The party is going on all the time. But they know in their heart they know that this is going to come to an end at some day. So in this world also, when there is lot of luxury and enjoyment, then our desire to become God conscious, or we cannot cry out to God with feeling. Prabhupada says in that Kunti Devi's verse, Janmaishwarya Sutta Shribiye Dhamanamada Puman Nevarhati Abhitatum Vai Tvam Kinchana Gocharam. He says that when we are too enamored by all these different things, beautiful body and all these things, then we cannot address the Lord with feeling. Because the Lord is the property of those who are materially impoverished. Now that doesn't mean one has to be poor, but in the heart they know that there is no shelter in this material world. Only Krishna is my shelter. And Amrish Maharaj was as akinchana as Shukdev Goswami. Although he was living in a palace, he knew that Krishna is my shelter. So we have no shelter in this world, all these false shelters. In the Dehapatya Kalatadeshu, Atma Seneshwara Satswapi, Desham Brahmato Nidhanam, Pashyanapi na Pashyati. In this Bhagavatam it is said that one thinks that is all his family and all this, they are going to protect him, and they are my army, Atma Seneshwara. But they themselves are fallible and nobody can protect in this world. So, like we know, Steve Jobs, right? He died in 58 years old, something like that. Steve Jobs was a billionaire. He had so much money, but nothing could save him. He had pancreatic cancer. So all these things, of course, devotees also die, but they will go back to the spiritual world. Or they will go to, if they have not perfected their life, they will go to a situation where again they will get an opportunity to practice spiritual life and they'll go back home, back to God after that. All are but material enjoyments, and one should be thoroughly convinced that he has no need of such a long duration of life, even in Brahmalok planet. So Prabhupada is saying we should not aspire to go to any planet or any place, because there also A Brahma Bhuna Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mam Upitya tu Kantya Punarjanmana Vidyate. He must return home back to Godhead. Because right from Brahmalok down to the lowest planet, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. He must return home back to Godhead and must not be attracted by any amount of material facilities. In the Bhagavad Gita 259, it is said that this sort of material detachment is possible to attain when one is acquainted with the supreme association of life. Param drishtva nivartate, that is that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, the higher taste. Nivartate means you become retired from, when you have a param drishtva. Drishtva means you experience a higher taste, param. Then you become retired from the, isn't it nivartate? One cannot be freed from material attraction unless he has complete understanding of the nature of spiritual life. So how we can have complete understanding? By reading Srila Prabhupada's books every day. Slowly our understanding builds up. The propaganda by a certain class of impersonalists that spiritual life is void of all varieties is a dangerous propaganda to mislead living beings into becoming more and more attracted by material enjoyments. So the impersonalists say that there is no variety, it's all one. But who would like to? Variety is the mother of enjoyment. Variety is the spice of life. So without variety, nobody, like many people have this idea of moksha. Moksha means you go into this place and you do nothing. You merge into this, and that it is much more enjoyable here in the material world than to be just in doing nothing and just staying in the Brahma Jyoti like that. So we want variety. Like in our prasadam also we have variety. On Sunday feast we have some sweet, some sour thing, some sabji. It is not all only halwa, right? They don't just give you all halwa. And then every day we eat many different things. We like variety. So in the spiritual world, there is variety in this material world because there is variety in the spiritual world, because there is a reflection of that. So in the reflection there will be variety only if there is variety in the spiritual world. As such, persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot have any conception of the Param, the Supreme. They try to stick to the varieties of material enjoyment, although they may flatter themselves as being Brahman realized souls. So if everything is one, if money is in your pocket or in my pocket, it's the same, right? So you should give me all your money. If it's all one, they say like that, if it's one, then you should give all your money to me. Because it's in your pocket or my pocket, doesn't matter. So, as such, persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot have any conception of Param, the Supreme. They try to stick to varieties of material enjoyments, although they may flatter themselves as being Brahman realized souls. Such less intelligent persons cannot have any conception of the Param, as mentioned in the verse, and therefore they cannot reach the Supreme. The impersonalists, they try to negate variety because they think spiritual should be opposed to material. So if in material world there is variety, in the spiritual world there should be no variety because it's opposed. So they try to negate it, but actually the variety is there in the spiritual world, and this is just a reflection. Urdhva Mula Madha Shakha. In the 15th chapter, Krishna tells that there is variety here because there is variety in this. It's a reflection. The devotees have full knowledge of the spiritual world, the personality of Godhead, and its transcendental association in the unlimited spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Herein, Akuntha Drishti is mentioned. Akuntha and Vaikuntha convey the same import. Kuntha means anxiety. Akuntha means no anxiety. And Vaikuntha means also no anxiety. So in this material world, there is always anxiety about so many things, right? Convey the same import, and the only one who has his aim fixed upon the spiritual world and personal association with Godhead can give up his material connections even while living in the material world. Iha yasya Hare Dase karmana manasa gira nikalasva piyavasthashu jivan mukta sauchyate. One can become liberated even in this material world if he engages in the service of the Lord with his manasa, karmana manasa gira, with his activities, with his mind, with his words. One who goes to the Param Dham does not return to the material world. This freedom is not possible even by reaching the topmost loka of the material world. So even if we go to Brahma Lok, which is the topmost planet, we still cannot get freedom unless we become a devotee. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I don't want to be a Brahma who is averse to you. Let me be born as an insect or a worm like that.
It is in the house of a devotee.
In the house of a devotee. So a big position in the material world without devotional service is not meaningful. Actually, one who has received the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he thinks this position of Brahma and Indra is like an insignificant insect. Kita Mahendra Vidhi Jakitayate. Kita means a worm like that. So some small. Those who have received the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, they think this impersonal liberation is like a flower in the sky. Tridasha Purakasha Pushpayate. Right? Kevalya Narakayate Tridasha Akasha. Because they feel so much happiness in devotional service that this Sayujya Mukti doesn't appeal to them. The Sayujya merging into the impersonal effulgence, they feel this is horrible. This is like Naraka. This is hellish. The life air passes through 7 openings, namely 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears and 1 mouth. Generally it passes through the mouth at the time of an ordinary man's death. But the yogi, as above mentioned, who controls the life air in his own way, generally releases the life air by puncturing the cerebral hole in the head. The yogi therefore blocks up all the above mentioned 7 openings so that life air will naturally burst forth through the cerebral hole. This is a sure sign of a great devotee living the material connection. So this is one way to live through the cerebral hole and go back to that. But if our mind is attached to Krishna, then also we go back to the spiritual world. Ante Narayana Smriti. Success of life is that we can remember Narayan at the time of death. So we have to make our mind attached to Krishna and take our mind from everything else and make the mind attached to Krishna. Because all the other attachments, the attachment of the mind will bring us back in this material world. Yeah. So this is the last verse, right? So we are done kind of. But I would like to say.
Does it also mean that maybe the soul living from the lower part of the body means our consciousness was kind of lower to our tongue, belly and genitals. That's where we were thinking, we were concentrated throughout our life.
It's possible like that, yeah. Some people not live through the mouth, right? How they live through the anus in the rectum and something like that. They live from the lower part of the body.
Yeah, so that shows the soul is degrading. If it moves to the upper part of the body, means it's
Consciousness is elevated.
elevated. So we should restrict our senses from enjoyment. Like, yeah, but senses can be, it has to be in engaged in Krishna's service. But yeah, sense gratification leads us to lower consciousness.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay.
But it says here the bhakti yogi should push the life here.
Yeah, that is bhakti yogi. I mean, without bhakti, you cannot go back to the spiritual world, right? Even though you do all these mechanical processes, you can't fit there in the spirit unless you have love for the Supreme Lord, and so that's a little bit. So every yoga ultimately requires bhakti for it to be successful. Without tinge of bhakti, no yoga process can be really successful. Because even if you go anywhere, without bhakti you cannot. Rishabdev says, right? Namuchyate.
Yeah, Pritirna yavan mai vasudeva. Namuchyate deha yogena tava. You need love for Krishna.
Rishabdev says, Pritirna
yavat mai vasudeva.
Namuchyate deha yogena tavat. As long as we don't have love for God, we are not free from deha yogena. Deha yogena means to contact another material body, to come in contact with another material body. We cannot get liberated without bhakti. And Narottam Das Thakur says, Chhadiya Vaishnav Seva Nistar Payachi Keva. Without serving a devotee who has Mahat Kripa Vina Kono Karma Nae.
Karma bhakti nahi, Krishna bhakti dur raho samsar mein.
Krishna Bhakti dur rahe. And without serving the great souls, Krishna Bhakti doesn't come. Krishna Bhakti and service to great souls means following Vani and Vapu. So ultimately Vani Seva and Vapu Seva. So without doing that, nobody can be delivered. Of course, we may not be able to follow everything perfectly but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Prabhupada said like that sometimes, right? If you do only 70%, then I will take you back home. You just hold on to my dhoti.
Yeah. So also one devotee asked, if I remember you, Prabhupada, at the time of my death, then where will I go? He said, that's all right, because you go where the pure devotee is. And if you're thinking of the pure devotee.
Yeah, so thinking of pure devotee and thinking of the Lord is not different. Because the pure devotee's activities are in relationship with the Lord. So that is why when we hear the life of different acharyas, it is as good as hearing Krishna Katha. Because
that's what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the time of death, he was reciting that song, right? Rupa Manjari Pada. So he was thinking of Sri Rupa Goswami. And he's in the spiritual world, Rupa Goswami.
So we can, yeah. So Lilamrita is also like Bhagavatam, you could say, because it is all the activities of Prabhupada, who's a pure devotee. So the activities of a pure devotee are in relationship to the Supreme Lord. Sometimes Krishna is even more pleased when we hear about the devotees than we hear about him, his glories. Right? So sometimes when you praise the devotees, when Krishna is even more pleased. Then we praise him. So
That's the easiest part for a spiritual advancement, Vaishnava Seva. Because you can get bhakti from another bhakta.
Shushusha Shraddhadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Seva Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. That by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So we serve the great souls. Narad Muni became Narad Muni because he served the Bhakti Vedantas. So also all the disciples of Prabhupada, before they were just nothing. They were taking all kinds of intoxicants and everything, drugs and everything. But by coming in contact with Prabhupada, and they became like great souls. So that is the hallmark of a great soul. How many other great souls he has produced? Right, that is the hallmark of a great soul. Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravrata. So Prabhupada, one person, he produced so many others. And now those devotees are producing so many other great souls. They will produce so many other great souls. So like that whole thing will continue. So devotee is like a touchstone. He touches somebody and then
that person becomes
that person also becomes a touchstone. With touchstone you can just make something into gold, but that will not become a touchstone. But devotee, like you touch, then that devotee can make 5 other devotees, and those 5 devotees will make another 10 devotees. Those 10 devotees will make another. That's how this whole movement will spread. The tree of Chaitanya. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is spreading like that. Okay, so we'll stop there. Thank you everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you.